So, good evening, everyone. Good evening, Dr. Ayush. How are you doing?
Good evening. I'm fine.
We're so glad to have the opportunity to interview you, and I really thank Dr. Manan Gupta for connecting us. But before I bombard you with the questions that our audience has and that I have for you, I'd like to take a second about an initiative that Dr. Manan has begun, the Wiseprep app. Have you heard of it?
Yeah. Manan sir was telling me the other day about it.
Right. So this is a NEET PG preparation app, and I've been using it only for a very short while now. But what I can tell you is that it really cuts out the anxiety about deciding which topics to rush through in the last 1 or 2 months of preparation. They have this beautifully curated list of the most high yield topics, their relevant notes, amazing diagrams, and a very concise question bank, and just about 4 or 5 tests for you to attempt. So, in that last 1 to 2 months, that preparation anxiety of what to do, what not to do, how many tests to attempt, I think Sir has beautifully taken care of all of that. And all this has been prepared by students who have not just cleared the NEET PG exam with wonderful marks, but also gotten into AIIMS, which is one of the most esteemed universities of our country. And speaking of that, Dr. Ayush Agarwal, who we are interviewing today, is currently a junior resident in the Department of Medicine in AIIMS-New Delhi. He got an All India rank of 1 in PGI-Chandigarh and AIR 3 in AIIMS PG entrance exam in November 2019 in his very first attempt during the internship. I think that is incredible. Congratulations, sir.
Thank you.
He did his undergraduation from the prestigious Maulana Azad Medical College, and he has been a Delhi University topper and was awarded with the Best Medical Graduate Award along with gold medals in many subjects. So you are an absolute inspiration to all of us.
Thank you.
He is not only a fabulous student, but also interested in patient care, logical clinical practice, research, table tennis, and basketball. So, is there anything that you don't do?
I try to, have my hands on a lot of things. So everything interests me.
It is incredible, absolutely incredible. So, sir, let's begin with our questions. Our very first question is: when, according to you, is the ideal best time to begin preparing for the entrance exams?
Okay, so it's like we must view that entrance exams are a part of our training to become a doctor. Okay, this becoming a doctor is a journey, and entrance exams is one of the tests that we have to pass. So,
Right.
when do you start becoming a doctor? From the very first year of MBBS itself. So, from the very first year, preparation from entrance exams also begins. It's not like you have to prepare differently to become a doctor and differently to clear an entrance exam. So whatever the things are taught in the college, the things you see in the dissection hall, the things you do in the practicals, all that matters. And what is required for entrance exams is just a different way of learning things, an edge that you require in MCQs. There's some fine details, etc., but the concepts and the logic, they remain all the same. So I would suggest that people should, study their textbooks and attend colleges well from the first year itself, and that will go a long way in preparing for entrance exams. A proper dedicated approach to entrance exams then may can start in, second or third year per se, where they should have an orientation of what is being asked and how they should read a subject. Because preparing for entrance exams also, provides an edge to your process of becoming a doctor. It makes you a better doctor as well.
Right. Fabulous. So, sir, there was something you just said here about how to prepare a subject. So, the
Yeah.
how to prepare and the where to prepare from. Could you tell us something about that? So, there are these multiple resources. There are textbooks, there are classes, there's DAMS, there's Marrow, there's so many different options now. So, what are the resources that are the most helpful for preparation?
Okay, so quite a good question, and that is the irony itself, that we are in an age where there's abundance of resources and lack of time. So the answer to this question will actually depend on which phase of MBBS the student is. For example, if he's in his initial years, like first, second, third, and fourth profs, I would suggest that they should focus on textbooks. Okay, so that they make concepts. They should attend college class, important college classes, and then they can use extra resources like the various notes we have, so that provides an edge, and they know what to, because studying textbook is very easy to say, you study textbooks, but not everybody can retain from a textbook. You give a textbook to 10 people, some will retain more, some will retain less. So you must know what to retain from a textbook, what to study from a textbook, what is important, that should not be skipped. So these
Right.
things are from multiple sources, like your college teachers will tell you, in different coachings people will tell you, and what you see on patients. So this is where, in the initial parts, you should focus on textbooks, and then get help from the various videos and the notes, etc. you have, and then try to consolidate it into notes, so that when you progress towards the later part, when you have real exams like prof exams, or in internship when you have lack of time, you can mainly focus on notes. Okay, so during the later part, when the exams are near, your focus changes from textbooks to notes and very high
Right.
yield stuff. You can't revise the whole textbook. So that is the thing. So in the initial part, main thing is textbooks, and then consolidating the textbook information to notes, so making good notes. And you can take help of textbooks as well as various coachings that we have, as well as, in if you have difficulty in understanding topics, take help from videos, and then side by side solve questions. Okay, so videos, question banks per se, and then textbooks and notes, these are the mainframe for the initial part. In the internship, I'll tell only till this time before next comes. So
Right.
next is in final prof. So I'll now we give exams after internship. So
Right.
during internship, time is very less. So you will need very high yield stuff in a less amount of time. So important things are notes, because you will revise only notes. This time test series becomes important. You can't solve question bank, because question bank has a large number of questions per se. So questions of only selected topics. Main thing is test series, subject wise tests as well as grant tests, and then reading important topics from review books. Now this is the part where review books will come into play. Reading important topics from review books. I think this should be what can be followed.
I
What
think
I
that's a
follow.
right. I think that's a beautiful strategy. Are there any specific question banks or test series that you would recommend for people?
Now, at my time when I gave, there were only few, but now there are lots. So it's like I would encourage people to explore, and explore the test series for themselves, and choose for themselves what suits them. So there are different kinds of test series. Some are subject wise, some are more topic wise. So there are lots. There's lots of resources. I'm after 1.5 year of residency, I'm quite aloof from all the recent developments, so I won't be able to particularly recommend. But I would encourage people to search for them, for search for themselves. Okay, take help from your seniors; they are very important, and take help from see what your friends are doing, and then choose for yourself. It's your journey, and you are the boss.
Right. It is a very personal journey. Absolutely. So, sir, also, we see in a lot of interviews on YouTube how the toppers of various exams have joined DAMS and Marrow and Prep Ladder and another 100 classes. Do you really need that many classes to get through the exam? Like all of them?
Okay, so one thing that is important to recognize is that when you see various toppers joining various classes, it's not like they've completed 100% from each class. What they've done is they have picked few subjects from something, few subjects from something. So, for example, what I did in my time was that I had mainly prepared from one coaching. I had
Mhm.
taken a test series from another coaching. Then I had some subjects of mine were very weak. So what I did was I used to take subject notes and see videos of those subjects from teachers who were in another coaching. Okay, so
Okay.
that's what I did. So I selected and handpicked things from different resources that I had, because I had made my concepts quite well in my college, so I knew what the main things was. Now, only thing that requires was polishing and brushing up, and there need not be that you have to stick only to one resource. There are so many resources, and they are all available to everybody. So you should not stick to one resource and crave about it. If you don't find any subject in a particular resource useful, you can always switch to that resource from another another source. So that's what I did. What I did in my preparation was that I had studied most subjects from rams, few subjects from bhatia, and then prep ladder, and then I had taken test series of marrow, and I also gave neat mocks of dams. So I
Okay.
used comparatively all, but selectively. I didn't have time to use all, but then all were useful. Even if one thing would have been less, I don't think I would have got such a good rank in such a short amount of time.
Right.
So that depends on you. And the main thing that guides is your seniors and your understanding of what is suiting you. For example, a same subject taught in one thing, everybody found it very good, but I found it very hard to retain. So I had to switch subjects. And this thing should be logical. This thing should be approved by one or two of the seniors as well. And this should be guided by the own choice, what to choose and what to not. But don't but this was quite difficult. Okay, this was very difficult. I had the fortune of being in mamc, so my seniors were good and they cracked exams, so I had the guidance. In places where you don't have guidance, it is advisable to stick to one resource, so that at
Right.
least you cover all the major parts. Okay, so that depends again on where you are and how your choices are. It's a personal thing, but
Right.
you know choose choosing is important. You have so many resources, choose wisely.
Right. So it's all about tailoring exactly what you
Yeah.
need with the
and
best
and what is
available
a
options.
and what is your expectations from the exam? If you're aiming for the top 1,000, then maybe sticking to one, two, or three things would be good. My expectations were different. My expectations were already to crack the very top, so I had to be
Right.
best in every subject. So I had to tailor made a lot of things. That is
Right.
the thing.
That's great advice, sir. So, sir, what was your study method? Say, supposing we gave you a brand new subject to study right now,
Okay.
what would your approach
Okay.
be?
So my approach would be, first, what I usually do is, first I need to set my standards. What is expected from me? First, I need to know what is expected from me. Okay. So if I'm preparing from an entrance point of view, I'll look up the previous year questions and see what are the questions they've asked. If I'm preparing from my prof's point of view, I'll take up the previous year questions and see what topics they are asking, so that I know that these are the things that are expected from me. Then I'll review the subject and see where those things are, so I'll mark them. Okay, these are the things that I should not miss. And then I usually read up the whole thing quite fast with a special emphasis on those topics that are being asked.
Right.
And then what I will do is, then I'll try to revise, because I'm kind of person. There are many people who retain the things the first time they read. I require at least 2 to 3 times of reading and then discussion. So I usually make it a point to revise. And maybe and in NEET and entrance exams, this is quite important. With the amount of load we have, one of the seniors really gave me a good advice to revise at least 2 times.
Okay.
Whatever be the speed, revise at least 2 times. It's the number of revisions also that matters, apart from how deep you study. So number of revisions is important. And then at the end, I'll again look up at those questions and previous year questions, etc., and I'll see how much I retain. That is the thing I do.
Right. Fabulous. So it's about doing it over and over.
And knowing what you're expected to.
Right. Right. So, sir, while preparing and giving all these mock tests and test series that you did you ever receive a low score or have a low point during your preparation?
I had many low points.
So,
I had
how did
many
you
low
manage
points.
to keep working in spite of that? I mean, a lot of people just feel like giving up, maybe not entirely, maybe for a really long period of time, but you miss out on that much preparation time. So, how did you deal with that?
That's a really nice question. So what there were two things. First of all, I had a group of nice friends, nice colleagues in my reading room. So we have this reading room in hostels where we study, and then everybody had their highs and lows, and then they used to encourage each other that now you need to do this, and then whenever you score less in a test, others also score less in a test. So it's
Right.
like the test was all for the same. Then you should take this as a motivation rather than the depression. So maybe there's something that you're not doing good, or you're not doing it right the right way. Means I'm working hard, but maybe I'm not working smart. So that thing. And then there were many posting related issues. There were some very hectic postings where we couldn't study and we used to get low marks. So then we used to be like, this is the part and parcel of life. You have highs and lows. Without highs and lows, you can't. So the main thing is persistence. You
Right.
have to persist. You have to persist every day so that you at least reach up to a point. So persistence was one thing, regardless of the results. And second thing was, taking results as a motivation rather than a depression.
Right.
So these test series actually help a lot in predicting your rank. For example, towards the end, we all knew who the top 20 was because the top 20 was getting repeated in every test series, and most of them are in AIIMS right now. So
Right.
that was predictive. So we knew ki, we are in this bracket range. What we need to do is somewhat more, a bit more. So taking test series as a motivation, having a good group of people who support you rather than demotivate you, and then persistence. This is the key, I think.
Right. Fabulous. So it's like the test series speak to you. They give you feedback about what you need to improve and where you can work harder so that you get to where
Quite
you
true.
need to
Quite
be.
true. Quite true.
Right. Right. So, sir, 1 month before the exam, what was your strategy? We'll go chronologically. 1 month, and then 1 week, and then 1 day. So, 1 month before, what was your
So
strategy?
1 month is a very small chronology, let me tell you. It usually starts 1 year back, and then
Right.
3 months back, and then 1 month back. One
So,
week is
let's
very,
begin
very
a
short.
year. Let's begin a year
Okay.
before.
Okay. So what we can, so 1 year back when I started internship, the main aim was to revise all the subjects. So this is what I tell to all the people who see my video. First of all, make a timeline. Okay. For example, if you have exam in November, AIIMS was in November. So if you have an exam in November, you should ensure that you read once and revise twice. My
Okay.
seniors told me thrice. I tried to do thrice, but I could do twice. That's what happens. So you must complete your first reading by June or July. You must complete your second reading by August and September in these 2 months, and third reading in October. Okay.
Okay.
So first you need to be sure of your timeline. Most of the people don't have their timeline because they're too afraid to make their timelines because we all cross our timelines.
Right.
So this is the first thing we have to, overcome, and that is applicable in all walks. So you have to make a timeline first. Then first that you have to complete your subject in 6 months. Then you should divide your major and minor subjects. Like major subjects have to be completed in about 2 weeks, minors in 1 week, and very small in maybe 3 days or so, depending on
Okay.
that. Or you may 3 weeks, 2 weeks, 1 week, whatever suits you in that timeline, with more emphasis being given to the subjects which are weaker for you and which are more important. So like AIIMS may first and second year subjects were very important. Okay, in the previous
Okay.
AIIMS. I don't know about INI-CET right now. Then first you make a timeline. Now you have got, for example, 14 days for path. Okay, what you'll do in 14 days, in the first day you'll skip to the previous year questions and understand what is expected from you. Okay. Second, you need to choose your resources where you're going to study from. So I chose my resources. And then third, you'll start reading the resource. With every day you will solve at least one previous year question paper of the particular subject. So
Right.
example, one day AIIMS 2016 November, then November, May 2017, like that.
Mm-hmm.
Now, in internship, previous year questions are so much that solving a question module alag se becomes difficult. It was difficult for me, particularly in MAMC, where we had a lot of time going into internship because we had to do internship very well as well.
Right.
Okay, that might not be true for others. So question bank I could to do very less. I mainly focus on previous year questions, and then after the end of that simulated time, I used to complete only 70 to 80% of the subject. Then I had to move on to the different subject. ऐसे करके by June I complete July तक I could complete the first reading. Then in the second reading, what you do is from the part where you left. So the remaining 30% subject has to be completed first, and then in the remaining time you revise the whole subject. Okay, and then in the third reading you revise the whole subject again. So this was during the first year. This is kind of what most people do. Most of the toppers do this only, except for the few very talented people who retain the first time. So
Right.
that is what people do. And the thing is, what all you have to complete in those stipulated time in the first reading and the second and third. So there's a four columns which I used to say. One is notes. First column is notes. So you make a page, you make columns and rows. You write all 19 subjects as rows, and you make four columns. First is notes. So notes should be complete for all the subjects. Don't skip any subject. Second column is previous year questions. Complete previous year questions for all. Third is test and discussion or any test series where you solve subject wise tests. Try to
Right.
complete it for all. And fourth is miscellaneous topics. For example, in AIIMS, blood banking is asked quite frequently. Then stains and different things, in particularly pathology, is asked. Then in PGI, immunology and biochemistry was asked more. They had some favorite topics. So those topics in those particular subjects should be completed. So at the end of the first and second readings, these four should be completed. These four look very easy, for each subject you're just solving notes, previous year questions, and test and discussion. But this is quite a lot, believe me. I
It
couldn't
is.
solve the all even after my second reading. So only on my third reading I could go. So go fast, keep the things simple, and do it. And give grant tests every month. So from the start itself.
Right.
So this is for the first, 1 year back. Then the last 3 months revision part. Revision part again, you have to divide a timeline. You have to specify what time you have to give to each subject, and then complete those 4 columns in those subjects in those stipulated time with an important emphasis on previous year questions. Okay, previous year questions are important. Then in the last week, what I did was I revised the whole course again. I revised the whole course completely again
Wow.
from the start till then. Only the high yield topics. It's not possible to revise the whole from start till then. And then
Right.
on the last day, I just revised some important high yield questions and previous year questions.
Okay. So that is quite a detailed timeline. And one thing I really liked that you said was even if you don't complete your entire portion within the stipulated time,
Move on
say
to
the
the
three
next.
weeks, just move on. I think that is something that most people don't do. You stretch your timeline rather than moving on. But that's some really great advice. So on hindsight, were there any mistakes that you made which you would have wanted to change if you got a chance to do it again?
Okay, so the mistakes I made. Okay, so hmm well, it said all's well that ends well. So all ended well, so all was well. But on the high side, the mistakes I made was uh, I got slack in my initial preparation years somewhat. Like some of my subjects were quite weak in the start, which I could have improved well, because in internship you don't have time to develop logic, and then you
Right.
get torn between this concept that should I go on depth or should I go on the width. Matlab, should
Hmm.
I understand it clearly or should I cover most of the topics. So that was one thing. I could have been better somewhat in my preparation phase in the initial part. In the second year, what one thing I could have done better was, like, many a times we have these lows that we don't want to study notes. We don't want to do anything. We want to take a break. The good thing ahead is to go ahead and take a break, but that break should be short. Like go out and have an ice cream and then come back. Not a day should pass without you studying something. Every day you should study at least one thing. Even on a duty day, have your phone, at least read one pearl, at least solve one MCQ, at least do one thing so that the flow maintains. And then when you have lows, you don't want to study notes, do tests. If you don't want to do tests, do videos. If you don't want to do videos, teach your fellow batchmates something. At least do something different, that helps you and maintains the flow. Don't break the flow. That
Right.
is important. And then be good with your friends, etc. Don't fight off in your internships and then come back with a bad mood. Then you won't be able to study. So
Right.
maintain a good workplace relationship. That is also good, important. I could maintain it most of the times, but sometimes things weren't that good.
Absolutely. Right. So that is, yes, very important to maintain the flow throughout because once it breaks, it's very difficult to come back. Right. So before we end the session, do you have any
Yeah.
tips for the NEET PG aspirants who will be appearing for the exam now in about a month?
Okay, so about a month. The point is now they should, focus on revisions more. Now there are two methods of revision. First is through your notes. Second is through your questions. So what is usually said is, now there are two approaches. Few of the people, what they do is towards the end they focus more on questions and less on notes. I was the person who used to focus more on notes towards the end and less of questions, and questions only previous year questions. Okay, so right now I recommend that revise all your subjects. Don't leave any subject. because every subject will have some marks, and then do it in a stipulated time. Only the high yield things. Don't try to revise from the first letter till the last letter of your notes. It won't be possible. Revise most of the major things in a stipulated time, and do previous year questions at least. This is the least you can do. And also give grant tests every month, every week, so that, and give it in a proper way. Give mock tests so well that your main exam becomes a mock, and that way you will perform really well. So we give it in a secluded place with a laptop and a mouse, and with no less water maybe, or so that you simulate the exam environment, and that should be good. That should be a good way.
Great. Thank you so much, sir, for giving us such detailed answers. I think you're going to be a mentor for thousands of people who are going to watch this video. So thank you very much. It's been great
It was
talking to
nice
you.
experience interacting with you. Same here.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Good night.